The first message I want to tell you is, I see a lot of bright, smiling faces here today, and I used to be one of those bright, smiling faces. I used to have a job after being in the military, coming out of the military and going into the private sector. I used to have a job where I made 6 figures a year. It was pretty secure. I thought it was. About 10 years ago, 9 years ago, the company I was working for decided to downsize a little bit on their benefits, and they said, okay, your family insurance now goes from $50 a week to $300 a week if you want family coverage. So my wife and I said, we're healthy, let's cancel our insurance. So we canceled our insurance, figuring everything would be fine. 3 months to the day later, I found out that I had cancer. In the course of the next year, it took everything out of our savings, everything out of our 401k, everything out of my wife's retirement, everything out of my retirement, and we eventually lost our house. We were homeless. Eventually we were, I'm sure you all know it, we were working here, but the rest area on 93 right here, that was my home for the first 2 weeks of being homeless. Me and my wife living in the cab of a pickup truck. Hardest thing I ever had to do was take my 15-year-old son and pawn him off to a family friend so he had some place to live. We lived like that for a while. Thankfully, my wife was still working. I couldn't work because of the cancer and everything. But we got through it. She was working. We actually bounced from one shelter to another or to living in a motel, which was probably the best way to go in many cases. And for over a year, I kicked cancer, and I've been cancer-free now. Still being homeless, we were living in a motel because it was off season up in Hampton Beach, and I got very, very, very sick. We didn't know if it was a relapse, we didn't know what it was, but I didn't have any money and nowhere to go. The girl who was living in the room next to us, who also happened to be homeless, said, "John, go to the bus." And I said, "What are you talking about, the bus?" And she said, "Go to the bus at the beach." And I said, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "Big Blue." Well, as it turns out, she told me the story that the bus goes to Hampton Beach right there at the bandstand during the winter months, every Monday morning. It was there. So she goes, "Go Monday morning." So I went Monday morning, and I got there, and it was a January morning, and I'll never forget it as long as I live. I got out of my car, and I walked back and forth on the boardwalk right there in front of the bus, and I walked back and forth for about 15 minutes, not deciding whether I wanted to go in or not. I didn't know how to approach this. It feels funny being homeless and asking for anything. Sometimes you're at the bottom of your barrel. Finally, the door opened up to the bus, and this young lady stuck her head out, and she's probably my best friend to this day. She said, "Are you coming in or not?" And they took me in, and we sat down, and she asked what was going on in our life, and the nurse was there, and the physician's assistant was there, and I had all these people working on me in a matter of minutes, and I didn't know what the heck was going on. And then they decided, well, you need to go to Exeter Hospital right now. And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, not only do we think you have pneumonia," she said, "but your blood sugar is 670. So they didn't wait for an ambulance. They put me in the nurse's car and took me to Exeter Hospital. To this day, we've had an awesome relationship. I'm not on the bus anymore, although they took, the bus, the bus, Big Blue was called at the time, because it was a Big Blue bus. They took care of me for like 3 months, and my wife, helping me sort through several levels of medical problems that came about from cancer and all of that. And then I went and moved what we call mainstream. I moved indoors into Families First, which they still take care of me. My wife, who is probably the hardest person in the world, I can't get her to take an aspirin, folks. Okay? Her and I have been married 28 years, okay, and I cannot get her to take an aspirin. And finally, I said to her, "Listen, you'll love Sue. She's a great nurse. Come and see her." And she goes, "Oh, all right." So she came with me one day to the bus, and Sue talked to her and everything, and I'm like, wow, they got a good relationship going. Well, the next thing I know, my wife comes out and goes, "Oh, we're going for an appointment next week. And I'm like, wow, this is something. So she talked me into going for breast cancer screening. Well, she went for her breast cancer screening a few weeks later, and come to find out she had breast cancer. She went through several kinds of surgery and all that, and now I need to say that in the 4th year, she's cancer-free. What I have to say about that is that families first are my heroes. You folks are my heroes. Because for anybody that helps Family First, whether it's $1 or $1 million, you guys are part of a family that are heroes in my book. My best friend in the world is my wife. And they saved her. If we hadn't gone to the bus, we would not have known she had cancer. We would have never known. So in my book, Families First are heroes. They asked me after a couple of years of putting up with me to be on the board of directors, which I did gladly. And my life has gotten a little bit better thanks to Families First. The case managers and that they have at Families First hooked me up with benefits that I never knew I was entitled to and everything else, and just kind of put me on the road to the point that I am now living in Derry on a farm, owning a farm, and living a semi-retired life. When I say semi-retired, because the farm keeps you working, in Derry. And my wife still teaches in Methuen, so.
That's great.
But if you ever want to know anything about Families First, and especially about the bus, go to the Families First website and look up the website, Save Big Blue. Because it describes us perfectly. It describes my wife and I. It describes the program. The one thing I have to say about Families First, in all the years I've gone there, whether it be the bus or the actual main office itself, I have never once walked into the building, never once, and not met an employee who wasn't smiling, who wasn't happy to see you, eager to help you. You know, I know we all have grumpy Mondays and stuff like that, but I've never experienced, never. And I've presented some of the employees with some pretty challenging things, and they have never been anything but a smile and a help. And that's what meant so much to me. I know there's a lot of other folks at Families First, patients and clients, that are in the same boat I am, that they've saved a lot of people's lives. And I would encourage you to look at the website and look at the Save the Big Blue. You'll see what the new bus looks like and the old bus looks like, and all of that. And I can't think of anything else except that because of my experience with Families First and being homeless, the governor, I don't very often get a call from the governor's office, but I got a call from the governor's office 2 weeks ago that asked me to be the client representative for the state of New Hampshire for the governor's interagency council on homelessness, which I'm the only client representative, but I sit down with 17 other secretaries and industry people. I'm the only non-professional person sitting there. And the funny part about it is they asked me the most questions. But that was an honor for me. But as a little footnote, Helen Taft, who is our director at Families First, is also one of those people on that governor's board. So there's a lot of expertise there on helping people. And thank you to all of you for everything that you've done.